A lot of conflict early on in a relationship does not necessarily indicate that you're not a good match. Because oftentimes, if you work out a lot of the different perspectives, philosophies, and values differences early on, you can have smoother sailing later on. A lot of times when couples get into the conflict, they're feeling all these intense negative emotions, and they're not realizing that what they need to do is actually be with the sensations and see what it's trying to teach them. What is the information located inside the emotion?
Annie Lalla, a relationship coach known for her transformative approach to love and intimacy,
blends neuroscience and psychology to help individuals and couples
deepen connection and resolve conflicts with compassion.
Her work focuses on guiding people to embrace vulnerability and self-awareness as tools for stronger relationships.
Annie's mission is to empower clients to experience love as a journey of personal growth and self-discovery.
The purpose of a relationship is to help you fall more in love with yourself and your life. That's it. Friendship, all relationships. If that relationship is more often than not contributing to you fall more in love with yourself and your life, it's a not net useful relationship.
So are you a believer you should find partners that are very opposite of you or very similar to you?
Yay!
Yay, here we are, Annie Lalla. So for people who are not familiar with what you do, to start off, can you just give the brief summary? Because I want to jump right in.
Yeah, let's jump right in. You can call me a relationship coach, but I actually think of myself as I found my favorite idea, and it's that true love is possible, that it exists and it's possible for everybody. And then I stand fiercely for that idea with my life. So I think of myself as the avatar for true love.
I appreciate that. And welcome to the Creative Path podcast.
Yes.
This is really cool for me because the story of how we met at an event actually earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And I was familiar with your work because I was in a very challenging relationship. And during that relationship where there was a lot of fighting that was going on, she sent me one or two podcasts that you had been on where you were talking about how a lot of the best relationships start with a lot of fighting. And she was using that as a way of saying, see, there's nothing wrong. We're building a great relationship. Mm-hmm. And that caused me to really evaluate whether or not we were building a great relationship and this was just me needing to stick through the storm, or if I actually had a deeper belief of, you know what, this should feel easier. And so I want to start there because that's, sure. I knew about you. This was probably a year and a half ago.
Got it.
And then I got to meet you in person and fall in love with just look at how you're dressed, the expression, the creativity, the authenticity that you show up with. And so can you talk to me a bit about your viewpoint on relationships and love, because I hadn't heard people really talk about it the way that you
Especially
do.
Around conflict. I mean, I specialize in conflict resolution. And so I do talk a lot about that in different podcasts. So she might have found a piece where I said, and I think what I would really have said is a lot of conflict early on in a relationship does not necessarily indicate that you're not a good match. Because oftentimes, if you work out a lot of the different perspectives, philosophies, and values differences early on, you can have smoother sailing later on. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I fought more with my husband in the first year than I've ever fought with anyone in my entire life. And so people have different paths into true love. And so she probably saw me quoting that and was making a case. Mm-hmm. And, I have many definitions of love. One definition is, I got it from John Perry Barlow. The difference between love and true love is the difference between a very large number and infinity. Okay, so that's one. And then my husband has taught me that when you want to understand a word, you want to have multiple definitions, like facets on a diamond. And so I also think of love as the white light of human emotion. So when you shine white light through a glass prism, it breaks out into the colors of the rainbow, right? All colors. When you shine love through a human heart, it acts like a prism and it breaks love out into all spectrum of emotions, which is kind of why I'm wearing rainbow today. So to be in love is to say I'm willing to feel every feeling in order to be in this relationship. I'm willing to feel the joy, the excitement, the happiness, the jealousy, the confusion, the rage, the shame, the despair. And so a lot of times when couples get into the conflict, they they're feeling all these intense negative emotions, and they're not realizing that what they need to do is actually be with the sensations and see what it's trying to teach them. What is the information located inside the emotion? And one of my least glamorous definitions of love is who's worth the suffering? Because every single time two people come together, they come from different histories, different philosophies, different backgrounds, and they have to find a way to tessellate these very disparate perspectives on life, worldviews, value sets, and that causes conflict. And I think of conflict as a collaboration between two different realities trying to happen, trying to tessellate. And collaboration is what you get when you stay with a conflict and you don't give up. You don't collapse on your perspective and just give in, but secretly resent the other person. And you don't coerce, which is manipulate by withholding love, intimidating the other person, threatening to leave. Those are the two enemies of intimacy, and they produce conflict. And if you can learn to work and transcend those patterns, you can stay with a conflict and eventually turn it into a collaboration. And I think probably what she was trying to say is, let's stay in and get to the final collaboration. And some partnerships can do that and some partnerships can't. I mean, every person I dated before my husband, I couldn't make it work, right? So it's not, there's a right time to leave and a right time to stay. And it's kind of like who's worth the suffering.
Well,
or who is the trampoline for your dreams and the sanctuary for your heart? That's a nicer
trampoline
definition.
for your dreams and the sanctuary for your heart.
Yeah.
So I could talk about relationships all day long.
Yeah.
It is, if you know my poetry, love, I am not just a student of love, I am an admirer. I am a deeply romantic dreamer.
I can tell.
And this is the Creative Path podcast.
Yes.
And so I want to take us in the realm of where love and creativity intersect. And I think that love is a creative act. I think that loving someone is an act of creativity. Building a relationship is a creative act.
Yeah.
And so since we're talking about conflict to start in terms of the conflicting aspects of building a relationship, how do you relate to the creative aspect of building a relationship?
So I'm a mother, and I have a daughter who's named Love, and she's 11 years old. And the most important thing I want her to learn, of all the things I could optimize for her maintaining, is her imagination. It's more important than any other skill. And we evolved through the evolutionary process, and imagination was selected for. And I think the highest use of imagination that I've found, besides art and all the ways people express creatively, which are beautiful signaling technologies in the mating game, if you look at really where it comes from, the highest use of imagination is being able to bootstrap a ladder out of hell in your mind, which is a lot of the reasons people do art. It's the only way in a desperate situation to hoist yourself out of the darkness. And every human being has to find their own way out of the craters of hell in their own heart and in their own mind. And what I collect for a living and cultivate is technologies for keeping your heart open just one breath longer, one moment longer when it most wants to close. And each human does that in a different variety of ways. There's as many ways to do that as there are imaginations. And I think when I'm working with an individual or a couple, what I'm trying to do is find where in their life does their heart collapse and close down. And the minute your heart closes down, your consciousness loses half of its intelligence, because your consciousness is half your cognitive mind, well, at least half, and then half your heart. And you need both online in order to be functioning at highest capacity. So when someone's talking to me and I can only hear cognitive data coming across and their heart's closed, I don't trust the information. I don't trust that consciousness in that moment. And so I actually see imagination and creativity as the foundational structure for being able to generate consciousness in the moment, and then collaborative consciousness, which is what true love is. It's a collab.
Yeah, and that's very interesting, because I define creativity as putting together patterns you've never put together before.
Yes.
And so what I hear you saying is that in a relationship, specifically when you're trying to navigate conflict, you have to be able to see a pattern that you have not seen before,
i.e. a blind spot.
a blind spot, which is going to require imagination. And one of the great things about like third eye vision to the imagination is, in order to create it, you need to be able to envision it. And so to have a vision of us in harmony, and then reverse engineering and feeling our way to, okay, how do I do that and create solutions for the conflict that we're in?
Yes. And that creativity requires immense courage and audacity. And in order for a couple to survive long term, which is the game I'm helping people play, they have to have the ridiculous, radical audacity to believe in something that is so true, good, and beautiful, it cannot help but come to pass. And in order to believe in that, which is the faith in the relationship, you can't extrapolate from the past experience or the current status quo. Faith does not come from what's happened thus far or what's existing right now. Faith requires you to travel into an unmapped future, generate with your imagination the most beautiful, true, good, and audacious vision you can, and then hold that to be true in the face of contrasting evidence often. That's why visionaries are so heralded in our culture. And to be in love, you have to be a visionary.
And you've also defined insanity, right? Like despite contradicting evidence, I'm going to choose to believe this thing. And that in many ways—
it's a communal insanity.
And it's cognitive bias, where people are refusing to see the evidence of insanity in our collective right now, in terms of political systems and medical systems and things that I would say are very detrimental to the collective. And yet people are going, nope, I'm going to choose to believe this over here instead. Where's that line between the insanity that serves versus the visionary that, you know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you one of my heroes, Don Quixote de la Mancha. Okay? Literally, he's one of my heroes. And so that line is a very private, personal, aesthetic inquiry. And I actually think, and I'm going to say something kind of ridiculous and audacious, is I don't know if you can stay sane without being in love. I actually think you end up spiraling into your own rogue myopias without having another person in your consensus reality helping you stay tethered to some kind of consensus reality. It doesn't have to be external consensus. But you just need one other person in your bubble with you, keeping you grounded and keeping you tethered to something beyond your own rogue mentality. And so to be in love to me is to emancipate yourself from as many blind spots as possible. There's no crucible or container I've found that is more transformational, no landmark, no ayahuasca trip. Love is the strongest psychedelic known to man. And so to stay in a relationship with the right partner who is standing fiercely for your greatness and their needs. See, when you're in love, your actual needs are custom crafted by the universe and sent to your partner through you to carve them into greatness. Even your shadows, even my husband's shadows, which in the moment drive me fucking crazy. But over time, I realize, oh my God, any lesser man who didn't have that shadows wouldn't have carved that little bit of myopia or unconsciousness that I needed to have transformed. And so it's very important that you find the right partner. And so I spend a lot of time with my clients who are singles, teaching them how never to settle.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we're getting personal because, as you know, I'm single. And you said something at the beginning of this where you said art was originally the way that we attracted mates. Was that what you said at the beginning of this?
My degree is in evolutionary biology. So I studied mate signaling, and basically peacock feathers and all the curlicue dances that the antelope do are all displays to signal high resource. You want to mate with me. And so I think art is a very elaborate signaling dance to mates. And I even said to you, if you or anyone who's single, if you want to find your partner, find surfaces, public opportunities to do your bird call, which is where you're most in flow, where you're activating your highest creativity. Because when your soulmate hears your bird call, they will recognize it. And what better way to meet someone than through your art? That's where your soul is on display.
Yeah, I think it's the first text message you sent me. It was like, you have a great bird call.
You so do. I mean, everyone falls in love. I mean, I couldn't even see you when you were performing at that event. I just heard your words come into my ears. And I was like, what the fuck is that phenomenon? It was so, I had to reverse engineer who you were from your art. And I was just instantly, he's an extraordinary human that I must meet. And as soon as I found you, I like channeled that to you. And so you want your future soulmate to meet you through that dimension, ideally.
Have you seen the fish that creates the mandalas on the seafloor?
Yes.
The tiny little fish that creates these crazy mandalas to attract a mate.
The bowerbird, it's all over.
Yeah. And so this is do you think that society has gone away from those roles a little bit? Because what we're talking about is the man does the bird call and the woman chooses
everywhere
based
in
on
nature.
that.
Everywhere in nature, the male displays, the female chooses.
And do you think
Even in the uterus, the queen egg sitting on her throne, and all the sperm come to court her, and she's like, no, 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 yes, literally. And even in the everyday world, in the mating game, men are showing off with all these lekking technologies. It's called lekking, to display your wares, your Ferrari, your fancy watch, all these normal status symbols. But in our community, it's how present you are, right?
Your poetry,
your ability to hold space for others. Like it's other things in our community. And I think we're becoming more intelligent that way. Like I wish for a culture where the highest status person in the room isn't the one who's least forced to look at their blind spots, which is currently the way it is. The highest status person in the room is the one that can be most present in the moment and create and able to alchemize their consciousness into creative expression. I mean, and in our world, it's more like that.
And so when it comes to the bird call, is the bird call always attached to creativity? Do you see them being synonymous, or because you just mentioned, for example, a lot of the male bird calling right now is look at my car, look at the business.
So those are status symbols.
Okay.
They're called lekking indicators.
Okay.
And they indicate, they're like the big antelope horns. They indicate, look how much resource I have. I can afford to make these giant horns. That means I'm very powerful. I have a lot of resource. And so a fancy car, a fancy watch to traditional women mean high resource. If you covet financial resource, but a modern day woman who makes her own money and is really looking for not a warrior in the world that can, amass just financial gain, but can actually create outcomes by calling the shot. See, money is an indicator, a surrogate for I have power. But it's only power in the 3D world, right? And it's great. You want a partner that can pay their rent. But if that's all they can do and they're not a warrior inside their mind. They're not an emotional warrior and are able to fight the demons that hold them back from their greatness. That's what, to me, the highest caliber woman is looking for these days.
I have a poem. The first line is, a woman's deepest desire is to be ravished by a man's consciousness.
And I would add, like, personally, the word that would make it work for me is to be ravished by a man's imagination. See, I fall in love with someone's imagination. That's how I fell in love with my husband. He was doing a talk at Burning Man. I watched how his mind took disparate ideas and wove them together. And I'd never seen that done before. I literally was like, that's the most extraordinary man I've ever seen. And I fell in love with him, literally through his bird call. And that's why I was saying you have such a great bird call, because you can literally taste your imagination dripping off of your words.
And so in the dating, let's say, because you do a lot of supporting people and finding a mate.
Yep.
Are you encouraging creativity? Is that a huge part of how we attract a mate?
Absolutely. A lot of my female clients, what I'm trying to do is help them get into their play space, because play is how you experiment and split test imaginative outcomes. A lot of men, by the point that they're looking for a mate, they don't even realize that their imagination is what's on offer. They don't know that's their bird call. They're busy trying to amass and achieve. But the kind of women I hang around with, they are most inspired by the ability for a consciousness to take the information it has access to and turn it into something compelling and beautiful and value laden for others. And maybe I'm stretching the word creativity, but to create something out of nothing, I mean, that's magic.
And so do you feel you and I are in a bubble though? Because like there are women that we're around that really value conscious men, and they want men who can hold space, and they want men who can be very present, and they want men who...
Well, let's look at that. Be present, hold space. These are terms that get thrown around a lot. They're hard as fuck. Okay, holding space looks like I'm quiet while you express your emotions, and I look like I'm being a Zen master or a samurai. But what I'm doing inside is fucking fighting demons.
Totally.
Stay undefensive, not argue back. Holding space is hard as fuck. And so how do you hold space? You have to cultivate inner game technology through imaginative exploration and education. It's what I teach. Inner game technology to be able to regulate your emotional state when the entire world around you is falling apart and your attachment figure is driving you crazy. How do you maintain a calm nervous system while someone's yelling and accusing at you? These things are difficult inner game. On the outside, they look easy, but on the inside, they're very complex. And every time I'm working with a client, I'm custom crafting the technology I already have on the shelf in my mind to have it be customized with their imagination so they can make it their own.
What you shared, I want every man, woman to really let land. And I'm going to illustrate it with a story. Sure. With an ex of mine, we had been broken up for a little while, but we were exploring again. Maybe there's something here. And we hung out for the first time. And there was the moment of, do we become intimate again? Is there going to be
sexually
intimacy?
romantic? Yeah.
Sexually intimate again. And she asked me if I had been intimate with anyone since our breakup. And I said, yes. She lost her shit, right? It triggered so much.
Much what?
Well, it triggered
jealousy.
It triggered the part of her that felt as if maybe I didn't value it as much as her, all of these things, right? And what that did, because when it comes to fight, flight, freeze, for her, she's a fighter. And so it became projection, and there were words like, yeah, you're showing me who you really are, and this is I've lost so much respect for you, et cetera.
Can we summarize what she did as aggression? Can we summarize it as aggression?
Yeah, she got aggressive.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, just a quick sideline, envy, jealousy, shame are 3 emotions that reduce your status when you express them. So in the human dance, they always dress up and masquerade as aggression. So just know, jealousy, she never will say, I'm feeling jealous right now. Can you remind me that you still love me? She instead showed the aggression to cover up the jealousy. So
right.
That's what was going on.
And so in that, I hit a point, and this has probably been about, 30 minutes in, and I go and I stop her and I say, okay, listen, I am in total understanding of why your feelings are hurt. I see that this information has hurt your feelings. And none of what I shared about sleeping with another woman happened while we were together. We've been broken up for many months. And so therefore, I did nothing out of integrity. I stand behind my actions, and I will not apologize for that. And I don't believe that anything that I did is not deserving of respect. I don't believe that I am someone that should be insulted or et cetera, et cetera. So I am willing to hold space for your process around this as long as you need. I'll sit here for hours. Which
is a huge I love you, by the way. Yeah.
But I will not sit in a reality in which I am someone who cannot be respected or is out of integrity.
Which you're saying, I'll keep my frame about my own integrity. You can have all your beliefs and your expressions, but you're not taking on that frame.
Right. And
rightly
I said,
so.
and I'm willing to, we need to be in the shared reality in which I am a man of integrity, I am deserving of respect, and that I did not wrong you intentionally in any way. And in that reality, I will hold space for your hurt for as long as needs to be. And so then that became a 2-hour space holding thing. But what I want to share to bring this as a tangible example of, I had to sit there for hours, and the part of me that's getting offended, the part of me that's getting tired,
and
the part of me that's wanting to be like, and that's getting angry, I'm slaying demons while if you had a camera on it, it looks like I'm just sitting very
Totally.
patiently and quietly, but inner turmoil. And that, to me, is the path of the spiritual war.
And that's heroism that no one's going to see but you. If there's a God and the interdimensional entities that watch you from the sidelines, like literally, I have a chorus in my mind that I've installed of all my future successful selves and people I admire, fictional and non-fictional, and they clap for me when I do shit like that because ain't nobody else watching.
Right. And that's where I believe integrity is truly built. It's in those moments that no one else will ever even know what was going on or what you had to do internally to show up the way you showed up.
That's why I say 90% of a relationship is happening before you even open your mouth. It's like, it's before you open your mouth to interact with your partner, the whole relationship is being handled or not handled optimally by the mindset, the beliefs, the frames, the assumptions you're making. And those are the skills that I collect, map, and teach. Is when I talk about the inner game, I can show you what to do if a camera's filming you, like what it looks like to do a fight well on a Wednesday afternoon. But most of the fight is happening in here before you open your mouth. How you get offended. And just to highlight what she was doing, which was very normal chimp behavior, okay? She's literally jealous, which is a status-reducing emotion. She's already in a tenuous place where she doesn't want to be more vulnerable because she's already feeling hurt. And instead of having access, because we don't live in a culture where admitting jealousy increases your status, it's a marginalized emotion, which I'm working on shifting. But that jealousy is masquerading as aggression and disrespect. And you're taking her words seriously instead of, it's like if I was whispering in your ear in that moment when she was yelling at you, I'd be like, this is all jealousy dressed up as aggression. Don't buy any of the narrative. This is her little scared tantruming girl grabbing big people words to try and get you into her frame. Poor thing, she's really struggling. Don't fall for it. Which you did perfectly. You stayed in your frame. You didn't get into her frame. Were you trying to get her into your frame? Like, come see where I'm.
No, I mean, my frame was my only frame was I was in integrity and I deserve respect. And so if those things are true, you can be hurt in that frame.
Yes. And she was basically saying I'm hurt in the only language she knew how to say it, which was blame, shame, and make wrong. And so what I'm always teaching my clients as much as I can is, can you have the audacity and the courage, and can I show you the tools to stand in your hurt? Over here was her hurt, but she's saying, hey, I'm hurt while being angry and shamey, blamey. But the only way you will actually be open to her hurt is if she stands in her hurt, opens her kimono, and howls her pain from there. No, your partner will never feel your hurt if it's over there and you're just getting angry and shamey blaming and wanting your partner to go touch your hurt. You have to be willing to feel your hurt first. Anytime you feel blame from someone else, it's because there's a piece of pain that they have in their being that they're unwilling to stand in, or they don't know how to. And until they're willing to stand in the pain, they'll project that pain as blame. And so whenever you feel blaming towards another person, what you want to do is go look for where's the hidden pain that I'm running from. And if you can stand in it and speak from that place, you will get so much further in the conversation.
And that's really, to me, you also just described making great art. The process of going, okay, on the surface, there's anger and I feel angry, etc. And maybe I start the poem from this place. Yeah. But underneath that anger, pretty much all anger, underneath it is hurt.
Absolutely.
Deep, deep hurt. And so the poem, if it stays at the anger, maybe it's a good poem. But the poem that starts in the anger and then gets to the hurt, that's a great poem.
Well, that's alchemy. You're making transparent your own private inner emotional alchemy, which is where imagination comes in, is when you mix imagination with emotion, the emotion starts to transmute into what's next because it's fleeting. Emotion in the body lasts 5 to 7 minutes at most, the sort of biochemical flood. And most people don't stay with the sensations of the emotion. So a feeling is a matrix of physical sensations in the body. And like when I feel angry, it's always a tightness in my throat. When you feel angry, it might be somewhere else, but it's always going to be in the same place. And every time we have a feeling, there's a somatic cartography of where those sensations are in our body. But when you meet someone who's angry, the first thing we do is go, why are you angry? We take them out of their body, shove them into their mind, so they go into the story about their anger rather than staying with the actual somatic imprint of the anger. When you write about or journal or use art to move through and with an emotion or even dance, you're staying in your soma and the emotion gets the microphone. You literally give it the microphone when you write poetry, and the anger gets to speak. If the anger could speak, what would it say if you interviewed it? And then as it starts to speak, it'll growl, it'll roar, and then it'll finally crumple and it'll cry and the pain will come out. And what's happened is you've gotten to the truth underneath the anger. And then that hurt, once it's witnessed, it makes way, a clearing for a new emotion like relief or possibility. And so art is the labyrinthine trajectory of alchemizing a difficult emotion into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that is more maybe inspiring.
Yeah. And so the work that you do with clients, do you, when you're developing and working with someone, whether it's a couple or it's an individual who wants a call-in partnership, how are you bringing your creativity to that process?
Me, Annie?
Yeah, you, Annie, because I imagine that a lot of people work with you because you're bringing new ideas. You're bringing a different perspective.
Yes.
And part of how you must do that is it's a creative process.
Absolutely.
For you.
And what I'm famous for is my metaphors.
Right.
So when I'm trying to take a very complex idea, because I've studied this for 20 years, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of this very complex terrain of interpersonal dynamics and the human heart and how it dances through reality. So I've just been collecting those models. And so when I have these all these models loaded up and I'm trying to explain it to a new client, my brain goes, okay, imagination, find a metaphor that relates to them, because they're a rock climber, for example. So I'll pull on I literally say, imagination, give me a metaphor that takes the gestalt sense of this complex model and offers it to them in a simple, easy to follow metaphor that they can grok.
Right.
And so, for example, I have this metaphor with clients where I talk about waking up all the lawyers that live in their mind that usually argue in defense of their own innocence,
Mm-hmm.
and to invite them to do a radical act that when you're in love with someone, to have all the lawyers in your mind use their intelligence to defend the innocence of your partner so that their PR is maintained in your mind. It's a shift.
Have them cross-examine.
No, so for example, say you and I are in a little dilemma, a little fight.
Yeah.
My lawyers in my imagination are quickly standing up to defend my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
My form of love, and I do this with my husband, and I do this with my friends, is to take my lawyers and go, lawyers, your job is to go find Adam's perspective and see what would have to be true to make his behavior dignified, understandable, and totally appropriate.
Right.
So I sick my lawyers on your defense of your innocence so that your PR in my mind stays positive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very sophisticated form of love.
Mm-hmm.
And would you be pleased if I did that in our friendship?
Yeah.
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 And so I'm trying to describe how to do this to a client because they're blaming their partner and making themselves innocent. And then I fetishize this higher caliber love and I describe it to them in this way. And where did I get that? I literally just pulled it out of my imagination. So my imagination gets invoked out of desperation when I'm trying to take a complex idea and make it very simple and meet the person where they're at. I actually came up with that metaphor while talking to a client who was a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And another one who was a PR agent. And so sometimes I use lawyer or PR agent. And so I've had mountain climber clients. I remember one, he was couldn't find a partner and he'd climbed K2 and Everest. He's climbed K2 and Everest, but he can't figure out how to make his romance work. So I started to explain to him, ask him, how does he get the next step when it's really hard up the mountain? And I took all the examples of what he does in his mind to breathe, be regulated, believe in himself, have faith, and then I just segue them over into this romantic space. So I'm using creativity by trying to excavate what I know from the client's worldview and maps, and then take my knowledge and package it in a way that's custom crafted in the moment to meet them and most likely to get into their poetic mind. It's a seduction. It's a seduction because I'm seducing clients past their blind spots, which is fucking hard. I work with couples who are fighting all day long, threatening divorce. So these are blind spots against blind spots. But what I've realized is when you can capture someone's imagination, they will follow you anywhere, including past their blind spots. So that's why metaphor is my favorite way to sort of enroll someone into a new idea. That means they'll have to let go of some of their cherished technology to defend themselves. But I am Machiavellian when I'm standing for someone's greatness and development and emancipating their consciousness. I will use any fucking metaphor that will hoist them out of their delusion that's keeping them separate and show them how to hold their heart open 1 second longer.
Do you have an actual process that you go through while designing metaphors, courses, content, knowing that, okay, my goal is to get them to understand this idea, right? Well, is it just an in the moment channeled thing, or is it a intentional, I bring that intention to a writing session with a cup of coffee and
I wish I had some kind of routine around that, but I will tell you that metaphoring is a big thing in our family. So my husband and I are both very good at using metaphors. We're very good teachers. I'm a little better than him at metaphors. But every once in a while, he comes out with one where I'm like, I wish I thought of that. And so we've been trying to train our daughter to become proficient at metaphoring. And so we've researched different ways to do that. And one of the ways he's been practicing with our daughter is asking her to look at two different objects and comment on what's the same and what's different. So he'll be in this room and he'll be like, look at that plant, look at that water bottle. What's the same and what's different? So they're both in the room, they're both taller than they are wide, and then look at all the similarities, then look at all the differences. And training a mind to scan through reality and tracking sameness and difference is how you cultivate the under substrate of being able to metaphor in the moment more readily.
That's really
So that's
great.
one way. Also just using them in conversation. So when my daughter was like 4 years old, she's like, Mom, a glove is like a sock for your hand, right? Similes, metaphors, see, the reason why metaphor is so powerful is because you're building a bridge between a domain that they understand to one that's completely inchoate and nebulous and like uncharted.
Right.
And it gives them a handhold, and it allows me to take a lot of data and compress it into an easy to carry, very memorable little meme.
Right. And I'm a big metaphor person.
Yeah.
It's actually one of what I feel is my superpowers is I take highly esoteric, broad concepts and bring them down into simple to understand language. And my poetry is the closest I get to, can I make it as simple as a rhyme? Can I just make it a Dr. Seuss? My poem that went viral, "You Are Who You've Been Looking For," is a very simple poem. There's no complex language in there. There's no complex rhyme schemes even necessarily. It's overall a pretty simple poem. But the fact that I can take a concept that so many people struggle with, like self-love, and break it down into a simple poem that people feel is why I think it went as viral as it did.
Totally.
And I love a good metaphor. And so I think the practice you just gave is really great. And I agree that there's like a blueprint in their mind that already exists for something. And when you create the metaphor, they can just take the blueprint they already have and apply it to this other area because you've shown them the bridge.
And it gives them the confidence. So what I'm trying, so it takes two things to make a great metaphor, which you know, is the pressing desire to communicate something in a way that's understood. So there's like that drive in me to be understood and to be easy to understand as a teacher. But there takes a kind of courageous audacity to go rogue and like basically say something that no one's ever said before. Like when I make a metaphor up, like no one said, use the lawyers in your mind to defend your partner's innocence. Like I'm kind of going off script from all of culture.
Yeah.
And I'm in that moment, I'm being an artist. I'm charting something in the design space that's never been charted before. And that takes a kind of pioneering maverick internal reference that I think any great artist has to kind of come to terms with. Like, I know there's no one saying, yeah, that's right. I'm on my own here. And they may or may not follow me. And that courage to be a leader, which is the visionary part of an artist, is what I think it takes, not just to be a great artist, but to be a great lover. Because every relationship requires you to reinvent love from scratch. It's not the same thing. Just like if these two people have a daughter and these two people have a daughter, it's not the same thing, but they're both daughters. But they're brand new inventions of what daughtering is. And so every couple that comes together, you can look around and go, what does love look like? And sure, there's some templates I can offer as heuristics, but girlfriend, boyfriend, you got to make that shit up from first principles. every single time because you're two brand new humans coming together to invent love from scratch. And you have to be willing to collaborate and create something that's never been made before. Because if you try to copy mom and dad or the neighbors, you're going to fuck it up.
So one of the pieces that I teach is that every artist needs limitation. And I think there's a constraint and parameters, because there's a common misconception that what makes an artist great is they have complete freedom to create whatever they want.
Don't
it's
give
like,
a canvas as big as the sky. You're
totally.
fucked.
You need a size of a canvas. You need a certain amount of frets on a guitar, etc. Now, when it comes to relationship, do you feel that there are the way that every guitarist has a certain amount of frets, every musician has the same amount of notes? Do you feel as though there is structure to relationship that across the board fundamentally needs to be in place? Or do you think that relationship is far more amorphous and open?
No, the constraint is the fucking predicament bondage of being in a relationship with this mofo, this person with their idiosyncratic wounds and OCDs and needs and dreams and desires. Being with my husband is like being in an exquisite gold cage that I'm trapped in, because when you're in love, you fall in love with the most inspiring human you've ever met, who allows you to actualize to your highest potential. That's what you fall in love with. And you don't ever settle for anything less than that. And so once I realize he's my portal to greatness, and on a Wednesday afternoon, if I'm fighting with him and he's driving me fucking crazy, there's no place to go. Where am I going to go? There's no other place. I already know that's my portal to greatness. So that's what gives me the kind of, burn the bridges, there's no place else to go, chutzpah, to dig into my imagination and go, bitch, you ain't going anywhere. So you better figure out how to find a way through this while not compromising your highest values.
So the real constraint, the only real parameter is it's me and this person. And that could look like, hey, we're okay with polyamory or whatever, but you and me.
And you can't collapse on your actual fundamental values.
Okay.
And you have to dignify and honor their fundamental values. Now, when you fall in love, you actually fall in love with a set of values that are very different than yours, but you need to integrate into your system because you're off balance.
Right, which is the you complete me idea to some degree.
Yeah, I would say it's more like you help me you represent what is unintegrated in myself. And I'm literally marrying my unconscious mind so I can make it conscious and integrate it.
So are you a believer you should find partners that are very opposite of you or very similar to you?
First of all, you don't have that much choice because your imago imprint from your attachment dynamic from your childhood is already governing who you find attractive. Basically, people think they're looking for someone smart, funny, and interesting, but you're actually looking for a particular brand of heartbreak that is nostalgic and vestigially reminds you of the pain you had with whichever parent you had to earn love the most. That's actually one of the main imprint.
Can you expand on that a bit?
Okay, so, I've been a relationship coach for a long time. Been in enough relationships. I read all the books. I knew that I struggled with my mom's relationship with me more than my dad's. She was emotionally unavailable, and I'm an emotional savant. So emotional unavailability is the attachment wound that I knew I was going to be running as I ran the world looking for a mate. And I knew I was going to end up with an emotionally unavailable man to some extent because that's the wound I have to play out in the script. You find a person to play the same role as my mom played with me. So my mom was not emotionally available in the way I needed, and I didn't get the love in the exact way I needed. So now I'm going to find a man who's emotionally unavailable so he can play the same dance with me. But this time at the end of the movie scene, I dream of getting my happy ending where he emotionally can meet me. So that's what I'm auditioning for. But I think it's smart, funny, interesting. It is all those things. So what do? I went looking for a man who was the smartest, most intelligent, most conscious, most willing to grow and evolve, emotionally unavailable man I could find. And I found him.
But you didn't, was that conscious?
It was proto-conscious. It was proto-conscious because I'm so steeped in this work.
Yeah, but what I mean is you walked into a lecture at Burning Man and went, oh my God, and you immediately fell in love with someone that you didn't know in that moment he's emotionally unavailable. Maybe your nervous system felt that.
Yes, and at some level, our soul is tracking holography, and everything's holographic, and his 3-hour talk was holographically representative of his magnificence and his madness all at once.
Right.
And my soul can grok the gestalt of that. You'd be surprised how someone who grew up in an alcoholic home can sniff a child from an alcoholic home without even knowing about their history. There's like patterns. And I didn't know it from the speech consciously, but as I got to know him over the 4 months that we were recording, I realized he had an estranged relationship with his family. I hadn't talked to his dad in 15 years. His mother had challenges with him. I was like, and I'm tight with my family. And so I was like, oh, I'm here to teach him how to repair his dynamic with his family. And the reason it needs repair is because he's emotionally not as sophisticated. And that's something I have in spades. And so I fell in love with a man I knew that I could love him better than anyone else. It's interesting. People are looking for someone who loves them better. I think it's better off to look for someone who you know you can love better than anyone else you've ever met. When I met him and I saw his particular pattern of crazy, I was like, I was made for you. The thing you can't do, I'm perfect at. And the thing I struggle with the most, he's excellent at. Order, structure, systems. I remember the moment I fell in love with my husband. One of the moments is I went into his kitchen and opened his fridge and he had meal prep. Monday morning, Monday lunch, Tuesday. And I was just like, I don't even know what I'm going to eat until 5 minutes after I'm starving. And I unconsciously was like, he knows how to do the thing I do not know how to do. So you fall in love with your favorite teacher in the domain you most need to develop in order to become whole.
Well, I really love that. And I want to jump to something you've said now twice around not settling.
Yes.
It sounds so simple. It sounds so simple. And I find myself tortured oftentimes by this not knowing what is settling versus what is maybe an unhealthy romanticization of what love can be and feel like.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean by that?
I totally do. And I have a lot of distinctions to separate those.
Okay.
But let's just talk. So even in the moments when I'm most in disdain of my husband, which isn't often, but like there are moments where I'm like, co-parenting from down the street sounds like a good idea right now. Mm-hmm. But I never, in my highest levels of rage, anger, frustration, do I think I'm settling. Mm-hmm. I might hate him. I might don't want to see him. I want to go get Airbnb for 2 days and leave the house. But I never think I'm settling. So it's kind of, the metaphor I have is like, if you've seen the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Okay. So I flew over the Grand Canyon on a helicopter and I've been at the edge of it. And I'm just like, I don't care who you are. Stick any human, even a psychopath, at the edge of the Grand Canyon and they're going to go, wow. Like it's just awe-inspiring. No one could describe the Grand Canyon as, oh, it's just a hole in the ground. Like it's magnificent.
Yeah.
When you fall in love, it's like being in front of the Grand Canyon. You're like, wow, that's awesome. That's magnificent. I can't diminish its magnificence. Mm-hmm. And you might not want to hang out with it or be around it or whatever, but it's never, you don't feel they're not enough. I never feel he's not good enough. He's not something, if that doesn't come in, I just hate him or don't like him or feel frustrated or feel overwhelmed. And so that's one thing to track is this, and every person I'd been with before my husband, I didn't have this feeling. And to be honest, I almost got married right before I met my husband to someone who was smart, good looking, just graduated from Columbia Psychotherapy, wanted to build a life and a family with me. And everything on paper was perfect. Mm-hmm. And I just, something in my soul knew I wasn't in love and I was settling. And as the avatar of true love, if I settled on that, then I would never be able to stand for the thing I came to do with my life.
Got it.
And literally, I broke up with him with no good reason 2 weeks before Burning Man. And at that Burning Man, on the Wednesday night is when I met my husband for the first time. Mm-hmm. And so the easiest way I could describe it, I hear people say, when you know, you know. I don't like that one, but it is true. The better one is, if you think you're settling at all, you are. So that thought does not cross your mind when you're in an inquiry.
Can you define settling?
Okay. Well, it's very private. That's why I'm saying if you think you're settling, so on my website, literally has 10 questions to find out if he's really in love with you and if you're really in love with him, and or both directions. And so I put a lot of time into how do you figure it out? One of the examples is the purpose of a relationship is to help you fall more in love with yourself and your life. That's it. Friendship, all relationships. If that relationship is more often than not contributing to you fall more in love with yourself and your life, it's a not net useful relationship.
Right.
So, you said, how can you differentiate when it's maybe abusive or wounds on wounds? let's say a full-on narcissist sociopath is with a codependent empath, and this pattern is in all relationships, this polarity.
I don't know which one I am, but yeah, sure.
We definitely go back and forth. But all long-term couples that sustain for a long relationship tend to have one partner that's more self-oriented, agentic, and one that's more we-oriented. And that's the main polarity that keeps the relationship glue, not male-female, but
I'm more
a me and a we.
Even if you look at what I do with my career, right?
Yeah.
There is a level of narcissism to look at me, I'm on stage, I'm putting out content, listen to what I have to say.
Great.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to attract someone who's looking for a teacher to help them selfify themselves, cultivate a stronger backbone and internal sense of reference. That's who I was at. My husband's very self-oriented, and he's been teaching me in cross-training over the years how to know what my needs are, my wants, how to hold boundaries, how to develop a self. And I've been teaching him how to develop attunement to others. Because that wasn't very high skilled on his end. So we come to cross-train our partners. But in terms of, we were talking about, settling. And oftentimes people come together because a wound is driving an attraction to an abusive dynamic that is familiar of our childhood. That's actually always there. But there's a threshold beyond which, if I were to ask some of my clients, is this relationship having you fall more in love with yourself and your life and your future? Repeatedly, if the answer is no, not every moment. There are moments where I would answer that no. But 51% or more is enough to round up.
Okay.
Right? And so more often than not, if your answer to that question is not a triumphant yes, this relationship isn't a trampoline for your dreams.
So there's two pieces to that I think are really interesting. One is the 51%, because there is that, I almost feel as though
51 to 100.
Yeah, settling. For some people, 51% is enough. For someone else, they're like, it needs to be 80%.
I don't mean permanently 51. I mean, it can go as low as 51.
Got it.
I'm saying there's a range between 51 to 100, as long as it doesn't go under 49.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So there's these relationships where maybe the answer is yes 51% of the time, but what you want is, I want to be able to say yes 80% of the time. Would 51% then be settling?
So you always attract someone. So say here's a center line of fully balanced human. And on this side is very self-oriented, and very othery. So a me and a we person. The farther you are from the center, the farther from the center you'll find. So the more narcissistic or selfing you are, the more codependent, empath, martyr, no backbone, can't stand up for themselves. So as you integrate and develop closer to the center, i.e. more secure, the closer to the center you'll be attracted to. The reason why I don't want to give a specific answer like 51 or 80 is because there are times in every relationship where you're down to 51. Your mom's just died, you just lost your job, you're low resourced, and the relationship is going through a tough spot. And if you're calibrating for always at 80%, then you won't have the resilience and the grit it takes to move through the difficult periods.
Got it.
So that's why I'm giving a range, and I'm looking at across time. I don't trust couples who want to break up in the middle of a fight. I only trust a breakup if at every moment, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're open, when you're closed, over the course of 3 months, through all the emotional states, there's a low-level hum underneath it all. This person's not right for me.
You just spoke to, I just got shivers because when describing why I could not stay in the relationship, that's not true. When describing why I couldn't re-enter into relationship after the breakup, it was the part of me, I said to my friend, there are moments where we've had such a great day and I'm laying there in bed, I've got my arms around her, and there's this voice in my head that says, this is not it.
Yeah.
And I can't shake it.
And that's when I trust it. So a lot of my clients threaten breakup in a fight, and I'm like, I'll only trust this when you've had a great week and you know what? I love him so much, I love her so much, and we're just not right for each other. Then it's time to, I don't like to call it breakup, I call it graduate. You graduate that school. And every couple comes together to get a nutrient or an education. A training. And once you get the nutrient, the education, the training, then you graduate. And there are some schools that are so eternally fascinating, you never graduate. And hopefully that's your partner.
And I've also had the experience of being 100% certain. I think that there's no doubt in my mind. And yet it just didn't work? And do you feel as though that's a learning of just, hey, you didn't have the data points to spot the red flags, or what's going on in that situation?
Sometimes my daughter is 100% certain that the reason she's upset is because she can't find her Dolly's shoe, but she's hungry. And so as your consciousness develops, your nuanced ability to discern what is right for you and what isn't develops. And so in some way, there's a developmental model for love. As your consciousness develops, the quality and caliber and nuance of your love increases as well. And so at that point in your life, you can only make decisions at the level of discernment that your consciousness can make. And it changes over time.
Well, I find that interesting because it makes me also feel like that increased level of discernment and nuance really shrinks the dating pool to a point where I look around at our quote unquote conscious community and I'm floored by the amount of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are single and looking for love. I don't know if that's, and I feel as if it's disproportionate to what the average would be of people who have just said, hey, I have my partner, I have my life, it's simple, it's this or whatever, and aren't on this sort of quest of consciousness that a lot of people in our community happen to be. And if the goal is, I want to find a partner, I want to find love, I want to start a family, I wonder how much the personal development consciousness expansion is in some ways a detriment.
If it gives you a false sense and a false delusion that you can actualize to your highest potential outside of partnership. And now I'm going to say something controversial and maybe edgy.
Ooh.
So I don't think there is a transformational crucible going on planet Earth that is a fiercer stand and support of you actualizing to your highest potential than putting yourself in the exquisite predicament bondage of being in true love. There is nothing else that calls up more of your shadow to the surface to be transmuted, and anything that gets past you and your true love romance will get handled when you have a child, whatever slips through the cracks. So in terms of personal growth, ain't nothing going better than true love, where you're in forever. And then you're going to collaborate on the most important and extraordinary project possible, creative project, which is a child.
I agree with everything that you said. And what that has done for me throughout my life is made it almost a deep need instead of a want. There was a part of me for a long time that felt as if it was missing, like something's missing from my life, not having that. Because I agree with you. I think that a relationship, I had the blessing of being in a 10-year partnership that was incredibly conscious and educational and was the springboard for everything that I am, the trampoline for my dreams.
Yay.
I would not be this person without her.
Yeah.
And because I had that reference point, and even though it ended after 10 years, I look at it as the most successful relationship I ever had. I have in many ways been searching for that again for years and years and years.
Okay, so that's it. So what you're looking for can't be that because that didn't work.
Well, I mean it more meta as what you just described as the relationship that is the trampoline for my dreams. It will look different now because my dreams are different now.
Yes.
But because I know that's possible, I felt that. I've been in that once at
you
one
won't settle
point
for
in time.
anything less.
I won't settle for anything less.
As it should be. Now, let's get down to the actual thing that's going on. You are extraordinary. You are doing your bird call across the planet. If 3 months go by and you haven't found your mate yet, something else is going on.
I mean, years have gone by.
Okay, so here's what I would...
It's not from, like, there have been relationships, so it's not as though I haven't...
No, I know there's options.
Right.
I'm just saying, for someone of your caliber of wizardry, my suspicion is that there's something you really value in your life right now that's crucially sacred to you that you think you might have to give up if you found your true love. We'd have to explore what that is. Like if I was doing a coaching session, I would dig around and see what are those things. And whatever that is probably makes sense given your history and your background. But it probably has never occurred to you that with the right partner, that thing you thought you'd have to give up, freedom, independence, the inability to travel anywhere you want, who knows what other things you covet right now in your life. If you have the false belief that that has to go in lieu of soulmate, then your conscious mind is going, soulmate, soulmate, I'm looking for you. Your unconscious mind's got its foot on the brake. Your unconscious mind is 90+%. So there you are. Conscious mind, foot on the gas, unconscious mind, foot on the brake. And what I do in my sessions with clients is help find out what terror has their foot on the brake. That's usually in the unconscious. Let's bring that into the conscious. Let's give it something to feel safe. Let's allow that part to feel safe enough to take its foot off the brake. And once you have all your parts actually in line with finding your soulmate, it won't take you very long. I mean, your machinery is working perfectly, your manifestation machinery. But you might think you have the blueprint running called, I'm available for my soulmate. I just haven't found her yet. I think you're running a blueprint in the machine called, I'm going to look like I'm looking for my soulmate, but I'm not quite ready because I'm slightly terrified. And so that blueprint is producing perfect outcomes that match that.
Yeah.
So the machine's working perfect. It's just, you're winning the game you're playing. It's just, let's play.
The book Existential Kink is great about this.
Yes.
This idea that I'm getting exactly what a large part of me actually wants, which is not the thing that I think I want.
And it's only because there's a terror.
Right.
And I honor and dignify that terror is intelligent, but it's probably based on a past experience that's no longer the case. Like if a woman grew up with a family where her mom had to give up her career to marry dad, and she always talked about that, then this young woman thinks unconsciously, if I fall in love, I might have to give up my career. It's not necessarily the case, but based on her history, that belief makes sense. And until I help brainwash her into believing that with the right partner, her career not only doesn't have to be given up, but gets exponentially increased, until that happens, she's going to have an undockable port for suitors.
Well, I feel like I could talk to you forever, and we're going to land the plane here. And before we go too deep into my psyche.
And I do want to give the two things I gave you at the party, if you're single, what to do to optimize for finding a mate.
Okay.
If you're a man, let's just say you are a man.
I am.
And you're looking for a woman.
This is becoming about me somehow. Okay.
If you're a man and you're looking for a woman out there, anytime you interact with any woman, 80-year-old lady in the pharmacy, 6-year-old girl in the playground, Starbucks barista who's a teenager, anytime you're around a woman, interact with her as if she is an emissary sent back in time from your future soulmate to interview you and see where you are on your trajectory and development in your kinghood. How much she feels like a queen and a goddess in your presence will indicate where you are in your development. Imagine after she interacts with you, she's going to send an energetic email back to your soulmate and say, he treated me like shit, or he treated me so well. And you're not flirting, right? The 80-year-old in the pharmacy. You're literally interacting, unless she's hot, yeah. You're interacting in a way that maximizes her dignity, her self-esteem, even if it's just a 2-second interaction at Starbucks. Another way to think about it is imagine the father of that woman or that girl is standing right beside her. Invisibly. How would you interact with that woman so that he would wink at you and be like, thanks? So if you do that with every woman, the way you'll be showing up is in your highest caliber masculine. And whether she's the one, she's practiced for the one. And so either that woman will recognize you or she'll be connected to a network where who you are starts to reverberate.
I love it. And I remember you telling that to me. And the way in which I've been able to step more into that is I've removed myself from dating.
Okay.
So
like dating online?
Just unless it's a very clear, I think this might be like, there's something beyond attraction here. There's like a feeling that this could have the potential of a life partnership. Just like that je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
If I'm not available any longer.
I would nudge you on that. Because
please.
You're so conscious. You're super smart. And so the best place your mind would hide the terror of finding a soulmate is in someone who you don't notice. So there's one that you notice that you're like, oh my God, I'm attracted to them. There's a girl that you're like, I don't even like her. And then there's one that you won't notice. It's neutral. You might not get that je ne sais quoi. So I would encourage you to date anyone who's neutral to wow. Don't cut out the wow. Neutral to wow.
Okay.
You can't be repulsed by them.
Well, I guess what I mean is, so I went through, so my philosophy on this is that I've thought I want to be in the frequency of the me that I want my partner to be able to amplify. And so that looks like, because there's a lot of conversation amongst men, but behind closed doors, women, you may not know this, but there's a lot of men that I know that we have this conversation about, to attract our queen, should we be celibate and really just focused on our purpose and our mission, or should we be dating and actively putting out the bird call in that way? And there's a lot of different opinions around this. For me, I thought it was very individualized. So I have a friend who he's very predisposed to be sexually promiscuous and go out and date and talk to everyone and flirt. But he wants a relationship to help ground that. Great. So I said, be more in the grounded energy because your partner will be attracted to that.
Yeah.
I'm someone where I feel more magnetic when my sexual energy is running. I feel more magnetic when I'm able to flirt and I'm able to whatever. I don't doubt my integrity or my loyalty. So being in that energy is helpful for my career. It's helpful for my creativity, et cetera.
It's also got you practicing.
And so I want to be in that energy so that I have a partner who loves that and is attracted to that and will amplify that.
Totally.
Now, what that led to was me dating and having, 4-day love bubbles and things like that. And I got to a point where I just felt as though it's wasted energy. It's leaky energy. It's not, unless it's that has that potential, just because we're attracted to each other and we have fun together. There was a point in time where that felt like the benefit, and it was worth everything that comes around it. For me now, I'm almost in the space of going, I just don't think it's worth the investment of time and energy.
Well, I trust that. I trust, since you played it all out. First of all, man's got to eat. So I just want to give you permission to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Annie
Keep all
Lalla.
the pipes running. And you having sexual interactions keeps a certain radiance around you.
Interesting. I'm hearing from men that it's celibacy that will do that.
Well, I don't know who these men are. I don't know if they're mapping across many relationship dynamics. And I trust your intuition over anything I say or anyone else says for first. But every single woman you interact with is either the one or practice for the one.
Okay.
And you want to bring your A game. So when an Olympic athlete goes on a Monday morning to practice, they're not doing a half-assed job. They're bringing A game.
Right.
That's what I mean by interacting with the woman as if their father is right beside them, or as if they're going to send a message back to your future soulmate. How do you interact with a woman so that after the interaction, both your and her self-esteem and dignity is maximized?
Mm-hmm.
If you're operating within that principle, go.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as that's happening, you're not going to have that thing that other guy was talking about. I don't think he was operating from that principle.
Mm-hmm.
So this interaction, a win-win dynamic, is one that after you exchange, you never want to go back and unexchange.
Mm-hmm.
So have all of your interactions with women be win-win across time.
Yeah, they've been amazing.
Great.
We can still have text messages, talk about, oh, that was so great, and be excited about it. However, it comes with a cost.
What's the cost?
Well,
they fall in love with you and trail around.
That's one of them. No matter how much I preempt the container with, hey, this is not a long.
And what's wrong with them falling in love with you and having to cope with the heartbreak of you not being in love with them?
I feel
guilty.
There's a thing to that,
because they're poor little women that aren't powerful and strong and not able to live through that.
There's an aspect of that, but there's also just the energy that it takes to hold
lovingly
space.
cauterize.
Yeah,
the wound.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's just for me, and also my feelings get involved. Part of the reason why they fall in love a lot is because I show up fully with all of me.
Well, you're creating a reference experience for a high watermark for what they will not settle for less than. Think of it like that, and see them as powerful and strong and not needing mollycoddling, and know that they will transmute that and alchemize it into being an even more powerful woman who will stand fiercely for an extraordinary man.
I love you're giving me the permission to go, because I've had that mindset, and oftentimes they have not interacted with a guy like me before, and the experience is now, because of that experience, there's a projection of this is what I want. And therefore, even though I said, okay, I get it, I understand that it's whatever, they were projecting their past experiences into their ability to hold that. Yeah. And the new reference point creates actually, this is a thing. And for me, I go through great. So there's the time that we spend leading up to it. Then we have our container of maybe it's a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. I travel so much, so it's usually however long I'm in the city. And then there's my own process of unraveling. So I wake up in the morning, it's some journaling about this and be like, wow, there's a part of me that like wishes we had more time together. There's a part. And as I look at my goals in life right now, specifically, I go, I don't want to be waking up journaling about someone who's not the one.
Great.
Right?
Great.
That's kind of where my mind.
So I trust that. I trust that you're playing, spending your energy in ways that feel most highest ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to meet someone if you're now? Here's the place that I'm worried about.
Yeah.
If you're lurking, ostensibly claiming and looking for the one, but some deeply low-level terror is holding that back.
Right.
I don't want the terror to win. So I'm on the side of your future soulmate and you finding each other.
Mm-hmm.
So
Me too.
Exactly. Okay. And if you may not know, my husband took him 4 months to even notice me. I knew he was the one right away. So I don't know, I don't know. I don't want you to miss that opportunity.
Can you?
Yeah, I hope not. I hope she would have the audacity to track you down. I had to track down my husband.
But do you mean, like, what I mean by that is if they're I don't believe in the one, but we use that term. And if they are a potential mate that you can raise a family with and spend your life with, can you miss?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like true love is the strongest force in the universe and it will find its way back. It'll find its way back. So you're probably going to win no matter which way you go.
Right.
And I want you to have, I'm basically optimizing for your heart being pressed up against culture and available for love to dock as much as possible.
I love this. Okay, we're going to land the plane rapid fire here. I have a program called the Artistic Entrepreneur. It's an incubator program, and there's 5 steps that I take people through to really help them take their passion and turn it into a business or be able to be rewarded for that passion. And so the questions are based off of these 5 steps. And the first step is identifying your core conflict, the conflict that keeps showing up. And as you've built this business around love and doing what you do, what is your core conflict that just keeps showing its face?
So as you can hear how I speak, I'm an idealist when it comes to relationship, and I can hold a very clear vision for myself and teach my clients to do the same. The reason I'm able to do that is because I'm the world's biggest cynic. There is no fucking crater of despair and hell that I haven't found myself in the bottom of. And I've built and bootstrapped a ladder out of romantic despair so often that there's nothing my client brings me that I haven't seen already. So while I look optimistic and idealist, I'm the quickest to go, it's fucked, and go from utopia to Armageddon. And so no one's Armageddon's more repetitive or frequent than mine.
Perfect.
And so I've turned that pulling myself out of despair into a life, a career.
That's art.
It's art.
Well done.
Exactly.
And so once you've identified the core conflict, the second part
So
is
cynicism and transcending cynicism. And then my tagline is, I help skeptics believe in true love.
That's a beautiful tagline. It's really great. And I am right there with you. I can swing from everything's amazing to everything's fucked very quickly. And so once you've identified the core conflict and you have that awareness, I think it's important to develop what I call a 100% certainty offer. The thing that you know is yours to bring. And when people feel that thing from you, they're like, the right person will take that. What is your thing that you have certainty around that you bring to this planet and to your clients?
There is no fight between two different people or perspectives that doesn't have an overlap in the Venn diagram. And I have absolute faith that I can reconcile any two disparate perspectives. So when a couple comes to me with a conflict, I have no fucking clue how we're going to get back to us. But I know on faith that there exists a place where I can get to where they have shared reality. And as soon as I find that sliver of overlap, I can build scaffolding on that up to the next level and hoist them back home to a new developmental communion. That I'm world class at. I don't know anyone else who can do it as good as me. I like to work with couples in the middle of the drama the most because that's where my genius comes out.
And what's funny is you just also described exactly why you're so good at metaphor. That taking those things and finding that Venn diagram. So Beautiful. That's art. So the 100% certainty. And then we move into crafting signature content. So once someone has that certainty, they do need to put themselves out there, their bird call to the world, their clients, et cetera, with signature content. And that really requires owning your voice and really being able to authentically share so that people see that and go, oh, I get her.
Yeah.
How do you relate to how you put yourself out there in your work?
Well, it took me 10 years to get to the place where I could say congruently without a wobble in my voice that I'm an avatar for true love and that I'm holding it for the species. And there's lots of other love coaches and teachers and dating coaches, and I love them all. But no one's taken that idea and made it their own. And so no one's doing it. So I'm going to own that. And so while I work on the team love with a lot of other coaches and teachers, when an individual is ready to find true love and not settle, and they're done with dating, I'm perfectly poised to help them make that transition. That's what I think I'm great at. And if a couple is in love and they're having recurrent conflict that they don't know how to alchemize, that's where my favorite moment to come in is to help alchemize that. So I create content around those two transition points.
So it's really about identifying where you love to be and help, and then just create content around that.
Yes. Remember I said I'll skeptics believe in true love. So the person who's dating and can't find their partner, there's a part of them that starts to go cynical and skeptic, and they're falling off the edge of the cliff with their fingernails of just, it's not going to happen. That's my favorite part to pull someone back. Is right. Because no one else can help them. Like when no one else can help them, I'm like the ER doctor.
Got it.
Of relationship drama.
Right.
And when couples have tried everything else and they show up at my doorstep, I'll fucking show them how to find their way back to us because it's my dharma.
What percentage of couples do you work with where you actually, they wind up breaking up and you go, yeah, it wasn't the right, you help them just realize it's not the right partnership?
I help them graduate, but I never break them up. And I think every couple that's together is supposed to be together until they get the nutrient or the education they came to get. And once they do, they'll organically transmute. And so I facilitate the transfer of data or the nutrient. And I ask my client questions, the answers to which have them realize whether they're falling more in love with themselves and their life in this process. But I never force a breakup.
I've coached a lot of clients going through relationship issues. And one of the things I say is, I'm actually not here to save your relationship, just to be very clear. I'm here to help you gain clarity about what it is you want in your life and how you want to feel, et cetera. And that may mean not this relationship, or that might mean this relationship. I'm less attached to that outcome. I'm here to help you get there. And so that's
I think of it slightly differently. I feel like I work for the unborn children of the couple.
Got it. Okay.
And so I'm standing fiercely for that relationship. I'm its midwife.
Okay.
I don't work for the couple. It's like an entity with two heads, and I'm working for the integrity of the relationship. However, I want those two people to have the most extraordinary relationship possible. The shape and the form of the relationship can be flexible.
Okay.
So if they graduate, maybe they're better at co-parenting than they are in marriage. But I'm standing for the most extraordinary relationship. And the way we get there is the same path, whether they stay together or move apart.
Okay. So last two. Once you've got all that, it's about building an authentic relationship with your audience. How have you approached that in this social media world?
I mean, I put out reels. I say yes to every podcast that I'm ever invited on. I take every opportunity to speak. I'm very vocal in public forums about what it takes to stay open to love, even though you want to collapse. That particular part of the human condition is where I seem to have a lot of tools. I don't see anyone else saying the things I'm saying, so I'm just saying them. And I notice that I'm less focused on money and fame, and though those come, I really believe every human on this planet could have a relationship that saves their life, keeps them sane, and hoists them to the next level. And they don't know that. And so I'm just looking for opportunities and platforms where I can offer that piece of faith to the skeptic inside their heart.
I love that. Yeah, you just really deeply believe, and you're just sharing that.
And every cynic is a failed idealist with a little ember of their dream still burning inside. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a cynic. They'd be neutral. So my job is to infiltrate get into the castle and blow on the ember to reignite that possibility in their heart.
Okay, last one here. Annie Lalla, with all that in place, it's now time to build your monetization ecosystem and really make it into a business that can reward you financially and otherwise. How have you approached the business side of what you're doing?
Well, I'm a private coach. I'm well-paid private coach. So I have my private clients, singles and couples. And then I run my own coaching school. It's called Heart Coach. And I literally am training generations of heart coaches with the principles and the technology that I use. I also run a coaching program with my husband where we teach coaches at large, not just relationship coaches. That's my private school. I have a year-long mastermind, like an incubator for people who feel a call at helping others believe in true love is their dharma, and they want to study and apprentice with me. So that's my Mistress Mind Accelerator. So I have a lot of different ways that I am supporting my dharmic imperative and making money.
Mm-hmm. And you have a whole team that you've built to support you with this, and has that come pretty naturally for you?
I have a team. Now I'm married to a marketer and a professional entrepreneur who teaches entrepreneurs. His name's Eben Pagan. He's kind of famous in the field. So I was lucky enough that when I started to take on my own coaching school, I had the support of his team. And so our company runs both our businesses.
Got it. Okay. There it is. It's been such a pleasure to get to drop in with you and get to meet you and now have this deeper dive conversation. Please tell everybody how they can follow you, find out more about your work and all the things that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, my website, AnnieLalla.com, ANNIELALLA, so 2 N's, 2 L's. I got a lot of free stuff on there. I put reels out on Instagram. My Instagram is @LallaBird, LALLABIRD. Come check me out, check out my programs. Come onto my list. I'm always giving away free, cool stuff. I do a lot of free programs, actually. My husband and I teach a program called Love Dojo for couples where we teach all the cutting edge conflict resolution technology that we built in the laboratory of our relationship because we didn't find anything else out there that worked. And so that's something you can find out about. I think I said everything. The only thing I didn't say earlier is when I was telling you to look for your partner to treat every woman a certain way. If you're a woman in the world and you're single, treat every single man as if he's your future. He's an emissary, going to report to your future soulmate on how you treated them. And imagine that man you're interacting with, his mother standing beside him. How would you treat him so that she would feel loved?
There it is. Annie Lalla with all the love, wisdom. Thank you so much.
So fun.
Thank you everybody for coming on the creative path with us today. If you've gotten value from this, please share it out, pay it forward, spreading this message of love and conflict resolution and soulmate searching and all of the things with the world would mean a lot. Tag me, tag Annie on social media so that we can see what you got the most value from, what part of this really resonated with you. And I want to remind you that always in always, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. I hope you have a really blessed day wherever you are in the world.
Yay! Love is the highest creative act.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you are interested in building a life that you love through the 3 pillars of relationship, business, and creativity, then I encourage you to continue checking out more of my content, including this video, which I really think that you will like.